What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com.
Here are my DFS picks for MLB Monday, June 21st.
These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button
And hit that bell icon.
so you don't miss our new videos.
In this video, I'm going to go over my top DFS picks for today's MLB slate.
And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made.
Okay, guys, we have a 6-game slate tonight. So let's take a look at the pitcher position. Now, just real quick, guys, yesterday's picks, well, we've struck out pretty much on all of them. But we've been on a pretty awesome run for the past couple of weeks. So we had one down day yesterday. Let's see if we can bounce back here tonight. At the pitcher position, I like Yu Darvish with a 13% pitching advantage over the Los Angeles Dodgers. Yu Darvish, he's only giving up a .572 OPS versus righties, and he's facing 6 righties here tonight. On top of that, the Dodgers have only hit 10 of his last 69 pitches. That's a 145 batting average and a pretty big sample size. He's $10,000 FanDuel salary, and he's 200 more on DraftKings. Projected at 32.7 fantasy points here tonight. He has an ERA of 2.57. His record is 6-2 on the season, pitching an average of 93 pitches per game, averaging 39 fantasy points per game. He scored 18, 43, and 31 fantasy points in the last 3 games. And on top of that, Vegas only thinks there's going to be 6.5 runs scored in this game. That's their over-under, so they have this one as a low-scoring game. So I like Yu Darvish here versus the Los Angeles Dodgers. Another pitcher that I like is Julio Eureus with a 6% pitching advantage over the San Diego Padres. Julio Eureus, he's giving up a .656 OPS versus righties. He's facing 5 righties tonight, and the Padres have only hit 10 of his last 46 pitches. That's a .217 batting average. He's $9,000 FanDuel salary, and he's 100 more on DraftKings. Projected at 20.9 fantasy points here tonight. I think you can bump that projection up to at least 25 fantasy points. And he has an ERA of 3.54. His record is 9-2 on the season, pitching an average of 87 pitches per game, averaging 36 fantasy points per game. He scored 26, 34, and 33 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Julio Eureus here versus the San Diego Padres. Oh, and Vegas also has this as a low-scoring game. Only 6.5 runs scored in this game as well. That's their over-under, so I think he's in a good spot here tonight. Okay, let's take a look at the catcher first base position. I got a stud pick for you. Take a look at Matt Olson with an 11% batting advantage over a low-salary pitcher, Kyle Gibson. Matt Olson, he bats a little bit better versus righty pitchers, batting a .859 OPS versus righties. And Kyle Gibson, he pitches 9% worse to lefties as he does righties, giving up a .752 OPS versus lefties. So he pitches his worst ball versus lefty batters. And I like this pick because Matt Olson is 7 for 14 with batting .500 with a 1.676 OPS versus Gibson, because 3 of those 7 hits are for home runs. He's 4,100 FanDuel salary, and he's 1,600 more on DraftKings. Projected at 10.9 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 13 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 22, 22, and 19 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Matt Olson here versus Kyle Gibson. Okay, another catcher, first baseman that I like is Yuli Guriel with a 31% batting advantage over a low salary pitcher, Keegan Aiken. Yuli Guriel is batting 27% better versus lefty pitchers, batting a .956 OPS versus lefties. And Keegan Aiken is giving up a .707 OPS versus righties. Yuli Guriel is $3,300 FanDuel salary. He's $1,400 more on DraftKings, projected at 9.1 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 11 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 3, 6, and 15 fantasy points in his last 3 games. And I like this pick because Vegas thinks this is going to be a high-scoring game. 10 runs scored in this game. That's their over-under. So I like Yuli Guriel here versus Keegan Aiken.
Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups.
Okay, let's take a look at the second base position. I like Jonathan India with a 27% batting advantage over a low salary pitcher, J.A. Happ. Jonathan India, he's batting 6% better versus lefty pitchers, batting a .819 OPS versus lefties. And J.A. Happ, he pitches 21% worse to righties as he does lefties, giving up a .825 OPS versus righties. And I like this pick because Jonathan India is only $2,800 FanDuel salary, although he is $2,200 more on DraftKings. So I love that FanDuel price, projected at 10.8 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 9 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 6, 15, and 3 fantasy points in the last 3 games. Vegas thinks there's going to be 9.5 runs scored in this game. That's their over-under. So I like Jonathan India here versus J.A. Happ. Okay, let's take a look at the third base position. I like Eduardo Escobar with a 32% batting advantage over a low salary pitcher, Brett Anderson. Eduardo Escobar, he's batting a little bit better versus lefty pitchers, batting a .695 OPS versus lefties. And Brett Anderson, he pitches his worst ball versus switch hitters, 28% worse than his other pitches, giving up a 1.033 OPS versus switch hitters. I like this pick because Eduardo Escobar is 4 for 7, batting a .571 batting average and a 1.339 OPS versus Anderson. He's $3,200 FanDuel salary and he's $1,200 more on DraftKings. Projected at 9.7 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 10 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 7, 0, and 0 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I think he's due for a good game here. The splits are great. It's a great matchup. And Vegas thinks this is going to be a high-scoring game. 9.5 runs scored in this game. That's their over-under. So I like Eduardo Escobar here versus Brett Anderson. Okay, let's take a look at the shortstop position. I'm going to give you a value play here. I like Kyle Farmer with a 54% batting advantage over that same low-salary pitcher, J.A. Happ. Kyle Farmer, he's batting 33% better versus lefty pitchers, batting a .796 OPS versus lefties. And we know J.A. Happ, he's throwing 21% worse to righties as he does lefties, giving up a .825 OPS versus righties. Kyle Farmer is $2,100 FanDuel salary. He's only $800 more on DraftKings, projected at 8.6 fantasy points here tonight. Now, he's only averaged 6 fantasy points per game on the season, but he's got good splits here tonight, and he scored 9, 10, and 16 fantasy points in the last 3 games. And we know Vegas thinks this is going to be a high-scoring game. 9.5 runs scored in this game. That's their over-under. It's a good matchup. So I like Kyle Farmer here versus J.A. Happ. Okay, moving on to the outfield position. I like Ketel Marte with a 71% batting advantage over a low-salary pitcher, Brett Anderson. Ketel Marte is batting 43% better versus lefty pitchers, batting a 1.198 OPS versus lefties. And Brett Anderson throws his worst ball versus switch hitters, 28% worse than his other pitches, giving up a 1.033 OPS versus switch hitters. Ketel Marte is 2 for 3, batting a .667 batting average and a 1.667 OPS versus Anderson. He's $3,400 FanDuel salary. He's $1,500 more on DraftKings, projected at 10.6 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 12 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 35, 22, and 3 fantasy points in the last 3 games. And Vegas thinks there's going to be 9.5 runs scored in this game. That's their over-under. So a lot of high-scoring games on the slate here tonight. I think this might be one of my favorite picks on the slate. So I like Ketel Marte here versus Brett Anderson. Okay, another outfielder. This is a stud pick. I like Nick Castellanos with a 24% batting advantage over that same low-salary pitcher, J.A. Happ. So I like the idea of stacking righties here versus J.A. Happ. Nick Castellanos, he bats a little bit better versus lefty pitchers, batting a .900 OPS versus lefties. We know J.A. Happ is giving up a .825 OPS versus righties. And I like this pick because Nick Castellanos is 12 for 22, batting a .545 batting average and a 1.447 OPS versus Happ. He's $4,200 FanDuel salary, and he's only $300 more on DraftKings. So I like that DraftKings price. Projected at 10.4 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 13 fantasy points per game on the season. He's been in a little slump, only scoring 3, 0, and 3 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I think he breaks out of that slump here tonight in what should be a high-scoring game. 9.5 runs scored in this game. That's their over-under. So I like Nick Castellanos here versus J.A. Happ.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smiggity smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.